welcome back, or welcome here if it's your first time. I'm Jacqueline. Thank you for stopping by my channel. For this video, we're going to be discussing detailed concealer application. I'm going to try to give you guys all my tips, tricks, products that I love, everything that I've come to learn about concealing. Different methods, different techniques, all that stuff. I'm going to try to show you as much as possible on a single face at a time. So if I'm looking a little bit uneven, basically I just have foundation and some eye primer on that kind of matches my skin. We are going to do under eye concealer, spot conceal. I have a couple of healing acne spots that need a little more coverage than what they're getting right now. So we're going to go through all of that. What I want to show you guys is how I like to use different concealers and why. Concealing is something that there's definitely a learning curve. That's true of a lot of makeup and a lot of different things that you'll learn to apply on your face. But concealer is one of those things that not only is it a trick to kind of find the one that works with your skin chemistry, but then it's a little bit of an adjustment period getting that specific formula to work the way you want it to. So I've got a couple of different formulas we're going to be working with today. I'm going to show you more than what we're using on my face just so that you guys know which ones I tend to reach for. If I leave anything out, please leave questions and that sort of thing in the comments. I read everything and I will answer anything that wasn't answered in this video. So please, if you have any further questions, leave them for me down below. These types of videos that are going in this illusion series are intended to teach you. They're intended to focus more on technique and less on products that are worth your while or not. I tried to differentiate different types of videos because I know there are a lot of different types of viewers out there. Not everyone likes the same thing. I like a lot of different things, and so I try to kind of display that here on this channel. I love makeup and I love skincare, but I also am big on educating people on how to use those products, because just grabbing a concealer doesn't mean you know how to use it. It doesn't mean that it's going to look good, and the product is not key. The technique behind the product is what's really, really important. Obviously, finding the right products. We've talked about that. It's trial and error. We all go through lots of things that we don't like before we find the right thing. Learn your return policies, hold on to those receipts. A lot of places let you return stuff even if you've already used it. That's what I do. I don't just dump money on things that might not work out. You gotta have your own back in that sense. I think that's as long of an intro as I can give for this video. I want to show you guys what I've been using lately. These were both featured in my favorites video, so if you need to go back and revisit that, please do. Oh, I left a fan on. Hold, please. I love both of these concealers. This is the Tarte Shape Tape. I have the shade Light Neutral. Yes. And then I also have the Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Creme Brulee, which is Light 2.5. On the website, they describe this as the cool undertone concealer, which I guess depending on who you ask, they might agree with you. I would say this is more neutral, maybe leaning cool. It does have some of that pinky, peachy undertone. The peachiness is why I like it so much. This is why I picked this up. In summer, my exact match is probably closer to Custard. Custard would be my exact match for spot concealing and that sort of thing. In the summer, I actually don't have a match in the winter as it stands right now. The reason why I like this so much is because of that peachy quality. You can see that kind of salmon color that's in there is more salmony than my skin tone, and what this helps with is brightening. So I have this kind of dark purpley gray undertone just on the inner corner of my under eyes and right in here, which I partially covered with some foundation. I didn't intend to, but it just kind of happens. In here, my discoloration tends to get a little more green because there's more veins close to the surface. This really helps to brighten in there while not being a super thick consistency. Now, the way I get it to not be a really thick consistency, because it can be, is I just kind of wiggle my finger in there and get a nice little thin layer on there and then go in with it. So we're gonna do that now. So I bring this all over where I have discoloration. So for me, that's right here. It's this little shape right here is where all my discoloration lives. So I'm just gonna do it on the one eye so that we can compare. So I leave it kind of like that. I don't have it fully blended in, and I'm aware of that. What I'm going to do is actually layer the other concealer over top of this. You might think I'm crazy. This may sound like overkill, or like maybe I'm trying to teach you some drag makeup steps if you're very light-handed with your makeup application. This might seem really foreign to you, but trust me, I'm not crazy. This thicker consistency does really well when I apply that underneath the Tarte Shape Tape. You don't need a ton of this. When I pull mine out, see all that product? You don't need it. So I actually wipe all of that off. I like to apply this a little more evenly under my eye, just because I do still need some coverage over here, just not very much. That's why I kind of taper it out. But I just do this thin layer, and then I pick up, this is my Maybelline sponge. It's dirty on the bottom because I did my foundation already. We're gonna take this tapered upper portion here, and this rounded portion is what I'm going to use to blend out my under eye. When you're using a sponge, the key with something like this is you don't want to drag it across your skin. You want to kind of bounce that product into the skin, lift up in between. So you're not dragging, you don't want any streakiness or anything like that. You're just blending where you already applied coverage. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start out here because I just don't need very much coverage out here. I like to do it when the sponge is clean, so I'm not dragging a ton of excess concealer where I don't need it. The reason why I work in light layers with concealer is because creasing is always an issue. I have some fine lines under my eyes. If you don't, you're very lucky, but just know that that's not a permanent situation, and eventually that will change. Just be aware that at some point, layering tons of concealer on your face is not going to look good, and you're going to have to revise that technique. For me, it works much better to build in thin layers and add more than to cake on a ton of it and then not be able to blend it the way I want to and have it all bunching up under my eyes. That looks good to me. You can see what I was talking about in my last video where I have this kind of delineated groove here. I have this deep groove here that causes a lot of shadows. So that's what I'm really trying to brighten with this step. And it looks like it's sufficient. It looks like I did the right amount of concealer on the first try. So you can see how much of a difference that makes between my two eyes. This one now corrected and this one completely bare. Just the under eyes. Let's go in and spot conceal. So for me, I'm actually going to be doing a similar thing for spot concealing because neither of these fully match my skin tone right now. So we're going to be mixing them to get as close as we possibly can. That's the downside with needing a spot concealer or being an acne-prone skin type, because you need something that matches your foundation perfectly. You can see that this is a little bit lighter than my foundation, so we're going to go in with the Tarte Shape Tape and add a little more color to kind of balance it out. But I'm just dabbing this anywhere I see some darkness or some blemishes that are healing, kind of peeking through. I tend to get a lot of redness right on the bridge of my nose here, so just adding a little concealer there for some extra coverage. Going back to my Tarte Shape Tape, I'm again scraping that wand off because I don't need all that product. And I'm going to just lightly dab over each one of these. Just get enough color to mix. And I'm using that same side that we already used to blend out our under eye concealer. Since we're using the same colors, it's not going to affect anything. And I'm again just bouncing really lightly until there's no longer seams where I applied that product. But then I stop. That's why I'm lifting up every couple of bounces, because if you take it a couple too far beyond blending just the edges, you'll remove your coverage. So blend sparingly when you're doing spot concealing. Keep checking. Don't overblend or you'll lose all that work. Now we've got this whole side of my face corrected and concealed, and I haven't done any of my blemishes or my under eye on this side, so I have a couple of blemishes you can see kind of healing. I didn't set my under eye right away. That's intentional as well. You can see now that my eyes have, well, my one eye that we've done so far has creased a little bit. So now I'm picking up that sponge again, and I'm bouncing up and down, going left to right and back again. Now there's no creasing. You want to ensure that all of those creases are blended before you set it with a powder, otherwise you're just going to be locking them in place for the day. I mentioned that in one of my first couple of videos, but just in case you weren't here, now you know. And I'm gonna go ahead and correct this under eye and a couple of these blemishes off camera real quick, just for the sake of time, and we will be back. Hey there, just a quick update. My face is now complete. It looks a lot different than last time you saw me. But I just wanted to show you, because I'm filming a couple of videos today. So if you're familiar with the Wet n Wild Midnight Mermaid collection that's launching, that's what this video is about. If it's up before this one, I will link it for you in the eye. I would love for you to see my demo on these Wet n Wild products. It's very exciting. That's why we went a little vampy. I had a new lip color to try out. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but anyway, this is our finished look. My skin is very, very even. I did not do anything special after I turned off the camera. I set my under eyes as normal, as you guys have seen me do in videos at least 10 plus times, with my e.l.f. HD Undereye Setting Powder. I did have to repurchase this recently because I picked up one that was the old formulation of this powder, which I do not endorse in any way, shape, or form. So if you've ever had this powder and thought that it was particularly awful, I would encourage you to try it again, because the new formulation is far, far superior and is my holy grail. That's what set my under eyes, as well as I use whatever is remaining on the brush to kind of swirl in where my foundation tends to settle. So I also set like my smile lines and right in the crevice of my nose with whatever was left on that brush. For the rest of my face, I set my skin using the Laura Mercier Universal Setting Powder. This is not to be confused with the translucent powder, which is a mattifying powder. This does not do that. It does not change the finish of your foundation. It merely sets the makeup. I adore this stuff. I don't know why more people don't, but this is stranded on a desert island, favorite setting powder for all over the face. Just kind of ended up in the back of one of my drawers. If you guys have the Alex drawers, you know what that's like from IKEA, when things just kind of escape your view and you forget about them for a while. That's what happened to me with this product, but it's my favorite all over setting powder. I don't know why I got away from it, but it's back. I want to quickly tell you some other formulations of concealer that I enjoy before we move on, just so that if you haven't seen my other videos, you will be aware of what else I like. For a specific color corrector for under the eyes, my favorite formulation to date is the Sephora Collection Bright Future Color Correctors. The reason why I like this formula is because it is a serum consistency. You can see, I'm going to freshly dip in here so you see, it doesn't come with a lot of product. It's very concentrated and you kind of dot it on. It's not a ton, but it's a very thin consistency, as you can see, and it just lightly blends in so beautifully. It just neutralizes the darkness that I have on my under eyes. The reason why I use pink is because with a peach corrector, a lot of times there's too much pigment in that with my fair skin to be able to cover that back up with skin tone concealer. A lot of times there's just too much color for me to try to correct with the corrector rather than with my own dark circles, if that makes sense. For people about my complexion or fairer, I would encourage you to look at pink color correctors as opposed to peach. If you're more medium and deep in that direction, something more peachy, apricot, even kind of bordering on red will help with your under eye circles. This is what I tend to use under medium coverage concealers because I do have some darkness under my eyes that will not be canceled out by a medium coverage. That's just not enough to cut it for me, personally. An example of a medium coverage concealer that I enjoy, one from the drugstore, is this Insta Ready Full Coverage Concealer by Physicians Formula. I beg to differ on the full coverage aspect. I actually think this is more medium coverage. If you don't have anything really to cover, then you might feel it's full coverage, and understandably so. But I enjoy this, though I do believe some product goes to waste due to the method of distribution, I guess, due to the packaging. It's like the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer. You get a full pump and you need maybe a quarter of that, so the rest of it just kind of dries up. I do enjoy this concealer. I think it is comparable to other medium coverage high-end concealers. I found mine on clearance at Walmart for half price, so this is normally $10. It comes with a little sponge that I don't care for too much. I found mine on sale on clearance for $5 for no reason whatsoever. It's still a year from its expiration, and maybe you can find one too. I hope you do. I a lot of times will layer that over the color corrector. Another dark circle color corrector that I have used that is not my favorite but still works well is the NYX Dark Circle Concealer in the shade Light. This is the second from the lightest shade. There is a fair version as well that is just a slightly more washed out version of this. Ooh. I think it's time to say bye to this. Even though it says it's good for 18 months, I can see like oils kind of pooling and bubbling up there, so that's probably gonna go after this video. We're gonna declutter that. I don't tend to keep anything that changes its formula. That's asking for trouble. I think this is a nice corrector. However, the consistency is significantly thicker than the Sephora collection corrector that I enjoy. So for that reason, this one doesn't get reached for very often, and it now looks like it is turned. So that's gonna go, but that's a nice affordable one. Another medium coverage concealer that I enjoy is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Concealer. This comes in both color correcting and more neutralizing skin tone shades. So it comes in a cool tone range and a warm tone range. This is part of the warm tone range. This is the second from the lightest one. This is Y23. Y21 is basically white with a slight yellow base to it. So I picked this one. It's a little bit light for me right now, so you've not been seeing me reach for it, and it's nearing the end of its shelf life. I do enjoy this concealer. The only warning I will give against it is that the shelf life it advertises on its packaging is only 6 months. If you're not someone who goes through concealer very quickly, you may have to repurchase this more often just because of its expiration factor. If you go through a lot of concealer, this is worth it. If you don't, probably not. Next, for concealers, I do have another shade of the Tarte Shape Tape that I use in winter, but other than that, the only other concealer that I own that I've worn and would recommend to you is the Bright Future Gel-Serum Concealer by Sephora Collection. This one I have not yet opened. You can see the label is still on it. It's still sealed. I picked this up in the last VIB sale. My old one was getting really old, and I know that this is my winter skin tone color, so I picked this up in anticipation of needing it. Those are the concealers that I would encourage you to purchase if you are looking for some and you have a similar skin type to mine. Some people with incredibly dry under eyes do not appreciate the Tarte Shape Tape. It's one that's capable of setting itself on certain chemistries. It's not one that's very dry skin friendly, particularly parched under eyes. It's not going to be your friend. If you go with something a little bit more emollient and more oil-based, you will probably be happier. Something like the Maracuja Creaseless Concealer by Tarte, as opposed to the Shape Tape. For the Bright Future Serum Concealer and Correctors, I think that these work regardless of your skin type. I wouldn't say that the Insta Ready by Physicians formula is exclusive to any skin type either, or the Makeup Forever Ultra HD. Goodness. I need to close this video because I can't talk anymore. I'm just challenged today. I believe that was all I wanted to talk to you guys about for concealing. As far as spot concealing, I do tend to like something thicker, something more the consistency of the Nars Soft Matte Complete Concealer, because it hangs on a lot better. It tends to set and stay and be a much more in-depth coverage than something like the Tarte Shape Tape that's very liquidy. That's just my experience. I hope that it helps you. If it does, please let me know by leaving a like or a comment. I would love to hear how this helped you. If this answered some questions for you, or you've been struggling with your concealer method and something in here works for you, I would love to hear it. I'm sure everyone else would love to hear it as well. Please don't take this as a you need to go out and buy this kind of video, because I try not to make those in general. I just like to review things so that you guys can see if, based on my high standards, something is worth your purchase or not. But I'm not the kind of person who really wants you to buy all of these things. I buy them to keep the channel interesting. Just because I'm saying these concealers are good does not mean you should chuck the one that's working for you and go buy this one. That's just not how I feel about makeup. If you like something, use it. It's that simple. If you don't waste your time on it. It's just a thing. It's a tool. It's a means to an end. If your current concealer is working as a means to the end that you're trying to get to, great. Maybe you could hone in on some techniques in this video today. But anyway, I hope this helps you in some way, shape, or form. I would love to hear how. I hope that you continue dreaming. Lord knows I do. Until next time, bye. Some people who have incredibly dry under eyes do not enjoy either the not shart, not that. Hey. No. Hey. Stop. Good Lord. Good Lord. What was that? Don't worry, we got it all on camera.